Luciana, I'm ready. Yes. First of all, I would like to express a warm welcome to every yogi, and I'm very glad to see you all coming to participate in this meditation retreat and to have this opportunity to share the Dhamma. Many times, Buddha encouraged to practice meditation many times. Jayata Bhikkhave Mappamadata. Jayata means to translate simply is to practice meditation. There are two kinds of meditation: samatha bhavana, tranquility meditation; vipassana bhavana, insight meditation. Jayata means to observe the object of meditation. In the samatha practice, one should observe closely a single object of meditation, such as kasina. Jayata, observe closely the object of meditation. In vipassana, the nama, rupa that are arising at the present moment. So Jayata here in this Satipatthana retreat would mean to observe closely the nama rupa, to observe the characteristics of impermanent suffering and non-self. That is Lakhanupa Nijana in the Vipassana practice. Jayata Bhikkhave Mappamadata. Mappamadata means do not be negligent, do not be heedless, do not lack mindfulness. So Buddha always encouraged not to have pamada, not to be forgetful, not to be negligent, not to be heedless. That means yogi should always be mindful. There should be apamada. Yogi should always be mindful. There should not be negligence. There should not be lack of mindfulness. Always be mindful. So this is what Buddha had encouraged many times, every time. Mapacha Vipatisari no Okuvata, meaning not to be remorseful afterwards. If one has been negligent throughout the life, not practicing Sila Samadhi Panya, while one is still young, while one is still healthy, while there are the suitabilities that are conducive to meditation, even though these conditions are favorable, if the person do not practice, if the person is negligent, not to remember to practice Sila Samadhi Panya, later on, when the time comes, when the person gets old, when the person is not healthy enough, or the person has trouble to sit or stand or walk, having to pay many doctor many visits to the doctor, many appointments at the clinic, or even bedridden, waiting for the time to come, or even near death. When the time comes, the person can have remorse. The person can regret. Oh, I'm very sick and old. I should have practiced Sila Samadhi Panya when I was young, healthy, have all the suitability now, the physical limitations, the person doesn't have the suitability to practice meditation, and so on. So, in this way, if the person doesn't make use of the opportunity, then there will be remorse and regret when one loses opportunity to practice. So that's why Buddha said, Ma pacha vipatisari no abhuvata. Do not be remorseful after. Ayan wo amakan anusasani. Meaning this is the advice, the admonition. This is my advice, my admonition. So this is what the Buddha said, admonishing many times to practice, not to be negligent, and not to be remorseful afterwards. So yogis here are very fortunate. They can participate in the meditation retreat. They are still, the age also is permissible to meditate. Health is also quite okay to meditate. And there are also suitabilities in the meditation center. So make the time worthwhile by practicing hard so that you make use of this opportunity fully, strive. So in the meditation retreat, the method of practice is in the tradition of the late Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw, the Satipatthana meditation. So Buddha had boldly declared the benefits of Satipatthana practice, purification of the mind, overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, uh, putting an end to physical pain, mental distress, attaining Magga and realizing the Nibbana. So these 7 benefits are guaranteed by the Buddha who practice accordingly to the guidance and instructions. So yogis must have faith and confidence in this Satipatthana meditation. Having faith and confidence, wanting these benefits, one should have faith and confidence and practice diligently so that you can also gain these benefits. So these benefits one can get immediately. The mind can get purified the very moment that you are being mindful of the present arising object, such as rising, falling, and so on. Okay. So one should feel rest assured that this Satipatthana practice is the way that Buddha, Pachika Buddha, and Arahats have practiced and became totally purified. And if we practice accordingly, we can gain this benefit. There is a saying, Yatha Bhagata Vipassana Biniveso. So in the practice of this vipassana, one should be noting, observing the object that is most obvious. So in ourselves, there is nama and rupa, mentality and materiality. Among these two, nama rupa, it is the rupa, materiality, that is more obvious. Among the materiality, vayu dhatu, air element, is the most obvious. So one should start noting the primary object. In the sitting meditation, the primary object is rising and falling of the abdomen. So when we first start, we must start with few and simple object. Just as when a child goes to school, the child starts with few and simple, few and simple exercise. In the same way, when one starts the practice, one should start with few and simple object. In the sitting meditation, we sit straight, legs crossed, upper body upright, keeping the body not too stiff, not too relaxed. One starts, one should close the eyes, focus the mind on the abdomen, and breathe normally, not to try to fasten the breath, not to slow it down, not to deliberately make it fast or slow, but to breathe normally, focusing the mind on the abdomen, rising, keeping the mind on the abdomen rising from the very moment the abdomen rises all the way until rising finishes. So the mind, the noting mind should be concurrent with the actual rising, making a soft mental note rising. But even though we make a soft mental note, what's more important is that the noting mind should be fully on the rising. The noting mind should be concurrent with the actual rising. And when the abdomen falls, focus the mind on it and note it as falling. So in this way, the primary object rising and falling of the abdomen has to be noted. If rising, falling is not clear, you can put the hand on the abdomen and note rising, falling, rising, falling. For some yogis who have been practicing other methods before, or some who have been doing breathing exercise, who have difficulty noticing rising, falling, at first you make an effort to note rising, falling. But if you get mixed up with the nostrils, if rising, falling is not clear at all, if you get mixed up, you can note sitting, touching as the primary object. Sitting, keep the awareness on the whole body sitting, the legs crossed, the upper body upright. Keep the awareness on the whole body as a whole sitting. Note it, sitting. Touching, between the buttock and the cushion, touching as touching. Sitting, the two hands touching as touching. So in this way, if you feel confused, if you get mixed up, with the rising, falling, and the nostrils. If rising, falling not clear, then you can note sitting, touching, sitting, touching. That's the primary object. And when rising, falling becomes obvious again, you can go back to noting rising, falling. So in this way, one can note either the rising, falling, or the sitting, touching as the primary object. It is Kaya Nupassana Satipatthana. As one is noting rising, falling, or sitting, touching for some time, after some time, there might be some pain in some part of the body. If pain arises, one focuses the mind on where the pain is, noting it as pain, pain. It is Vedana Nupassana Satipatthana, observing feelings and sensation. If there is pain, focus the mind on it, note it as pain, pain. If it is aching, note it as aching, aching. Or if there arises sadness, note it as sad, sad. If there is happiness, note it happy, happy. And then afterward, go back to rising, falling. So noting the physical feeling, mental feeling, it is Vedana Nupassana Satipatthana. And as one is noting the primary object, at times the mind wanders. If one get distracted by thoughts, note it as thinking, thinking. Do not be carried away by the thoughts. As soon as you notice the thought, note it thinking, thinking right away. So if there is thinking, note it thinking, thinking right away. If it is remembering, note it remembering, remembering right away. If one doesn't note thinking, thinking right away, what can happen is one can get carried away by thoughts. If they are happy thoughts, one become, uh, if they are desirable thoughts, one can have greed on it, cash in it. If the thoughts are about unpleasant things that one have come across, there can be anger, hatred. In this way, if one fails to note the thought, greed, anger can arise. And also there can be delusion, not knowing correctly. In this way, kilesa, defilements can arise if one cannot note thinking right away. In the Buddha time, there was one minister who was given the throne for 7 days. So he was drinking, having fun, watching the dancers dancing. And when one dancer was uh, dancing, and then she suddenly had a stroke and then uh, passed away suddenly while dancing. So this minister who was given the throne, he saw this dancer passing away, so he had a lot of sorrow, lamentation, thinking about how he had watching this dancer. Now she normal. So he went to the Buddha, and the verse that Buddha taught him was Shampo Beta Visosehi, meaning dry up the kilesa defilements that arise connected with the past. So if one is thinking about the past, if one is thinking what kind of fun, what kind of good things one had in life previously, lust can arise. And if one is thinking about what one has lost, what kind of fun that one has lost, thinking about the past, then this thought can lead to uh, anger or having distress, losing. In order not to let it arise, as a yogi, not to think about the past, one should be noting the present object such as rising, falling, sitting, touching. In this way, if the yogi can keep the mind on the present object, thoughts about the past doesn't arise. So defilement cannot arise connected with the past. And if thoughts about the past arise, note it right away, thinking. Or if it is remembering, note it remembering, so that defilements such as greed or anger cannot arise connected with the thought of the past. Katsan. Ajati mahu tenshana, meaning do not let the attachment with lust arise connected with the future. Mostly people tend to plan, but as a yogi, don't be planning for the future. If you are planning for the future, if you are thinking what pleasant things that can arise in the future, if you are looking forward, if you are looking forward some good things to come, then attachment with lust can arise based or connected with the future. In order not to let it arise, be mindful of the present object, rising, falling, or sitting, touching. Do not plan for the future. If planning for the future, if thinking about the future arises, if one is looking forward some favorable things, note it right away. Thinking, planning, and so on, so that defilement cannot rise connected with the thought. And mache no che kahesasi upasando charesasi. Mache is the things that are arising in the present. If one is not mindful, one can also be attached. One can also cling onto with having or with craving, such as it is my body, it is my mind, it is mine. So if one is clinging with it is my body, my mind, then there is clinging with tanha. On the other hand, if for one might think it is I, person, a being, then there is clinging with ditthi, wrong view. In order not to cling with tanha craving, in order not to cling with ditti, one should observe the present object, rising, falling, or sitting, touching. If one can discern that there is the mind, there is the matter, there is nothing else. There is only mind and matter. There is no I, there is no mind. Then one does not cling onto the present. So in this way, dry up the defilements that can arise connected with the past, not to have attachment with lust and so on things that can arise in the future, not to cling onto the present with Satna and Diti. In this way, Upasando Charisasi, meaning one can live calm, composed, peaceful. Of course, an arahat is a person who is totally calm, peaceful, being away from defilements. But as a yogi, if one is mindful, at that moment of being mindful, discerning the object that has been noted, momentarily there can be calm, composed, peaceful. So, in order to be calm, composed, peaceful, away from defilements, one should be mindful of the present arising object and discern correctly. Be mindful of the mind, such as noting, thinking, when thinking arises, noting, planning, if planning arises, it is Citta Nupassana Satipatthana. And Dhamma Nupassana Satipatthana, when one is doing sitting meditation, noting rising, falling, times mental images arises. If the mind get distracted by mental images, note it as seeing. Or if the mind is distracted by noises, noting, hearing. Or at times when one feels sleepy, noting sleepy. When there is angry, noting angry. When there is greedy, noting greedy. This is Dhammanupassana Satipatthana. So in this way, in the sitting meditation, rising, falling, or sitting, touching as the primary object, and when other secondary objects arise that comes obvious, go on to note them and then come back to the primary object. So time is up. May you all be able to practice smoothly in this meditation retreat and may you be able to reach your goal in meditation speedily and smoothly. Sadhu, 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 sadhu.